Today we're interviewing Deacon Bill Newitt. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Pastor Donald.
I wanted to ask you first about your background, where you grew up and went to school, and your family and so on.
I was born in the Brantford General Hospital. I lived in Brantford or Brant County all my life, pretty much, although I worked out of town for many years, but our home was still in Brant County.
Okay, and where did you go to school?
Went to many different schools. I started at Graham Bell School from kindergarten to grade 5, and then I went to another school in the country, and then and then back to Brantford, and then back then out to Oakville, or not Oakville, but Oak Hill, which is out near the airport. That's where I did grade 8, and then to BCI for 5 years of high school, and then off to work, and I started work in Brantford too.
Okay, and where did you work?
Initially, I worked at Keeprite Products, which was a manufacturer of cooling equipment, refrigeration equipment in West Brantford. I was there for a number of years, and then they left town. I had the opportunity to go with them, but chose to stay in Brantford, and went and worked at Massey Ferguson for about 6 months until the people that I had worked for at University of Cooler called me and asked me to come and work for them at a company in Guelph, Gilson Manufacturing in Guelph. And I worked there until they went bankrupt. And
Nothing to do with you, Bill.
And then I ended up at Keeprite, and I was with Keeprite for 33 years. So, and I had many different careers within the company. I started as a draftsman, and then I went down to the plant as a foreman for many years, and then into material control, and finally ended up in the customer service area. And I finished my career with Keeprite in the customer service distribution area as a middle manager for many years.
Okay.
And that's where I finished my industrial career. And after that, I got one of those handshakes when I was 57 years old, and was unable to find more employment. So some friends at Central Baptist Church convinced me I should try real estate. And so I worked in real estate for 12 years until I retired at the age of 70.
And did you always live in Brantford then? I mean, were you?
In Brantford,
like worked in many places.
Actually, we lived in St. George for 41 years. Stella and I moved here to the condo that we're living in now 11 years ago, and it was fortuitous in that I had, while I was in real estate, I had sold this particular condo, to Pastor McWilliams, Pastor Paul's father-in-law and his wife. And at that time, when I was selling this to them, I realized that would be a fine place for Stella and I if we ever wanted to leave St. George and come to town. And so we ended up here about 11 years ago.
Okay. So how did you become a Christian, Bill?
When I was 13 years, I had been raised in a Christian home. When I was 13 years old, a maiden aunt paid for my cousin and I to go to Camp Minneowi, which was a brethren camp on Mary Lake in Muskoka. And it was after a campfire one night at the camp that the Lord spoke to me, and on my bunk in the cabin following the campfire, I asked Jesus to be my Savior.
Okay, very good. And when did you start coming to Central Baptist?
I started probably in the early 80s, and in 1986, Stella and I became members of Central Baptist Church. And the following year, oh no, not the following year, in 1997 or 96, I was first elected to the Deacon's Board.
Okay.
I was working out of town for those 10 years, and I had been asked a couple times to join the board, but because I was away all week, I didn't feel that I could serve properly.
Okay. And what positions have you held in the Deacon's Board?
Well, my very first year, it was building and grounds. Pastor Irwin at the time started with an almost completely new building and grounds committee, and I was on it. And then over the years, I served in various positions, vice chair, chair for a number of years. I've served on the missions committee at one time. At one time, we had what we called a communications committee. I chaired that for a year. Generally, in some administrative position has been my role. That's more or less my strengths, my gifts, I guess.
Would you like to just enlarge a little bit about building and grounds? What are the responsibilities in building and grounds?
Well, we have responsibility for caring for the factory, if you will, the buildings and the grounds, and ensuring that they're in a good, usable condition, that they're maintained properly, that the maintenance work and upgrading that is required is done within budget restrictions. We have a small committee, but a committee of all workers, and they're very helpful. Each committee member pulls their weight and contributes to the overall work of the committee. And Trevor is just a new leader in the last couple of years and doing a great job.
Now, obviously, you can't do all the work yourselves. Do you use other people to help? Do you have companies helping?
We hire contractors where we can't handle it with volunteers. Obviously, with electrical matters, we have to hire electricians and plumbers because in a public building like that, we have to be sure that we've met all the codes and keep things legal and up to date, and not just jury fixed sort of thing. But by and large, wherever we can manage with volunteers, we try to do it with that to keep the costs under control.
Okay, I'm sure it takes constant care to look after a building that's that old, and there's been a lot of renovation recently.
Yes, and there's lots more to be done. A lot of upgrading to be done, particularly outside now. We've made some vast improvements inside with the foyer, and then with just a couple of years ago with the auditorium. And last year we spruced up the gym and added some safety features in the gym, and work is being done, but there's still very much more to do, and particularly outside. Our parking lot is becoming degraded. It needs some upgrading. Our front sign has almost reached the stage of a disgrace, and we need to do something with that. and some landscaping, and it all costs a lot of money these days, and so we're very careful about that.
Well, thank you, Bill. I guess that means we can look forward to additional changes in the years ahead. And we're grateful to you and Trevor and all those who are involved. So thank you for sharing with us this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Pastor. I appreciate the opportunity.